Good morning, Maple Mafia, and welcome to the Mr. Maple Show, where we love talking about Japanese maples. I'm Matt, that's my brother Tim. We've got a great cultivar highlight for you here today.
We're here in Gaston, Oregon at our Buckholz farm. It's almost May. We're here in late April to bring you Acer laevigatum Hong Long. Get excited. Now, if you don't know anything about the Mr. Maple Show, we put out daily YouTube videos. Make sure you're subscribed. And we're a mail order Japanese maple business that ships directly to your door. So check us out on MrMaple.com and subscribe to our weekly emails.
Now guys, Acer laevigatum Hong Long is a special tree with a unique origin to it. This is actually a cultivar that was wild collected. So this tree originated from seed, collected in the wild by our friend Mark Wethington. Now Mark Wethington saw this tree and he said, Matt and Tim, this is something special. It was grown there in the Lath house at the J.C. Ralston. And he said, guys, you should get some material on this. He's always about saving things by propagation. So he shared some signwood with us on this tree. Now, one unique thing about Acer laevigatum is this tree doesn't look closely related to Japanese maples, but this is as close, this is in section palmatus. So think of it like japonicum, shirosaldums. This grafts onto Acer palmatum, which is really cool, having such diverse traits to it. Now, Mark let us get some signwood, and we kind of just fell in love with this plant. So eventually we got to the point where we said, Mark, you have to put a cultivar name on this tree, or we're gonna name it Mark Wethington. Well, Mark, being the humble guy he is, said, don't put my name on it. I'll come up with a cultivar name. We absolutely fell in love with these unique set of traits. Think you will too, guys. It's got a lot going on for it.
I mean, Acer laevigatum Hong Long. The name translates as red dragon. And I love universities like NC State, the J.C. Ralston Arboretum, that work with nurseries and getting plants in production into the trade. I mean, that's the best way to do it. Sharing is caring. And this tree is getting out there in the trade because of that. People can actually appreciate Acer laevigatum. Why do I like Acer laevigatum? Well, they come from high elevations in where they're at in the mountains of China and Taiwan. And when it's that, it actually is a little more cold tolerant than many of the other quote unquote evergreen species. Being an evergreen maple in a colder zone like for us in Western North Carolina, it actually goes semi-deciduous or sometimes even full deciduous during the winter months. And that's great for me because I like when the evergreen maples have a reset and then they leaf back out and with gorgeous, and with this one particularly has this purple red foliage.
This one is exceptional. Now, straight laevigatum rarely has this great a color, guys. The species is a beautiful tree on its own. You can get some sharp looking new growth, typically on glossy green foliage. What makes Hong Long so special, pink new growth, purplish stems, and my favorite trait of all is this metallic-y, pewtery blue older color you get going on. So you get this great contrast within the tree itself. Now this is semi-evergreen, meaning it does go deciduous in most colder places. We're listing these as zone 6 through zone 9. It has a good bit of heat tolerance for high heat areas, guys, but you do want to protect it from late afternoon sun in zone 8 and 9 for sure, possibly even in zone 7. It doesn't like a lot of full sun, but for a shadier spot with even morning sun or late day shade, this one lights up the show, guys. It's got so many cool traits to it, and the contrast you can get between this and other trees is just otherworldly. It has a characteristic unto itself that looks like nothing else in the maple world. I absolutely love its bark interest, but also that blue-green pewter. That's really one of my favorite things about this. The name's Red Dragon, but that older growth, man, that is dope. I love what it does in the old growth.
Now, Acer laevigatum Hong Long is just an amazing plant. Like Matt talked about earlier, you want to give it some protection from the hot afternoon sun in most zones. The J.C. Ralston had this lath house, which is this dappled shade condition where you really get some sunlight in there, but you also get that shade protection that some of the evergreens need. Naturally, this is an understory tree. And so that's the way it normally performs very well out in the garden. But this brings a unique tree out in the garden that people can enjoy, that's a maple, that's gonna be your master gardener stump plant. I mean, I love those plants that confuse people on what they are. People will be like, what in the world is that? This is a colorful maple with colorful foliage, but the leaf is anything but what you think of a maple leaf. I mean, it's extraordinary in its own right. And these plants can actually grow about 14 to 16 inches of growth in a year. So slightly faster than most typical Acer palmatums, but this can actually be grafted onto Acer palmatum because it is closely related. It's one of its cousins. It can be, I've seen it done as rooted cuttings as well.
It does well from rooted cuttings.
And so this is a plant that is very unique and special whenever it comes to being a cultivar of an evergreen. There's not many of those, but also a tree that's just going to add that flair in the garden.
It's pretty cool it's wild collected too. I love the adventures that go along with a lot of these trips guys like Mark go on. We love to talk about that and kind of open our people up to that. We interviewed Douglas Justice a good bit, who does a lot of, you know, exploration and cultivation of these rare plants that you won't find otherwise. And this was just a complete diamond in the rough, because this was a tree that was collected for its species, but it had ornamental traits enough for a cultivar status. So it's extra special in that regard. I think you guys are going to love this. Now, when we're in zone 6B back in North Carolina, this one does go completely deciduous for us. Here at Buckholz Nursery in zone 8 in Oregon, it holds on to more foliage than it does back home. So you'll find some differing examples there of how deciduous it is based on how hot you get. I think you're going to love it either way. I think guys in Texas are going to love this one in a shady spot. A lot of the deep south are really going to enjoy this plant for a little more protection, but the color it can bring. And I really love the textures, guys. I mean, put this next to your hot blonde, which can handle a good bit of sun, but put this out there next to this. I love when also there's rare species that have cultivars, because there's so much in Section Palmata. You know, everything in Section Palmata is palmatum, circinatum, spoldianum, pseudospoldianum, japonicum, shirosolarum. That's the bulk of all of our cultivars. It's really cool to me when we get into Pubi palmatum, when we get into Acer laevigatum, and we get into Acer laevigatum. It's like you've opened up a whole new set of traits that's unique and unto itself. I mean, some people might look at this and think it's a rhododendron, a nandina. You're going to stump a lot of people with this weird plant, but I love the ornamental characteristics it's got, guys. You're going to love it whether it goes completely deciduous or not in your area. When it goes completely deciduous, the whole thing's going to leaf back out pink with this red. If not, you're going to get some of this metallic-y right out the gate like this has.
Don't forget the bark. I mean,
and it's a good grower too. It's vigorous.
The bark itself, that purple-red color, there's not another maple that has this showy of a purple-red bark than any tree. Plant this with an aoyagi and a bihu or a winter orange for like maximum contrast on the bark itself. This tree shows that each and every season.
It's going to bring a lot of ornamental traits to the Asian garden that you might not have had in other plants going on. I love that elongated leaf, that translucent sheen to it. It really just has something for every single season. I'm a big fan of this one in the early spring though. These you can see are already that two-tone kind of shade here. We sent this to Talon Buckholz early on as a gift. So we actually sent him this cultivar back when we were evaluating it, saying, Mark, you got to put a name on it. You got to put a name on it. And Talon saw this and he goes, that's really nice. He got it right into production here as well. And we've been grafting onto straight palmatum, which has been very successful for us here. And I think you guys are going to like it. Similar to palmatum, good drainage, you know, slightly acidic soils. They don't want to be in boggy or wet feet. Most of the time, the roots are going to be very similar to palmatum. It's a non-invasive plant. I think you're going to absolutely love this one in your landscape, though. And it provides such a fun characteristic any time of the season.
Now, if you love these types of videos where we talk about trees, make sure you're subscribed here on the Mr. Maple channel. And also, make sure that you subscribe on MrMaple.com for our weekly emails.
Guys, take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.